Hi, I'm Kat, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about some of my most anticipated 2021 releases. This is the point it has come down to. I don't know what to do with my hair anymore. It's really long and it's annoying, so this is the current situation. But I'm really excited about this video. I'm really excited about all the books I'm going to mention. Do I know what all of these are about? No. Am I excited for all of them? Yes. I will try my best to explain some of the gist and especially why I'm interested in them, and maybe you are interested in them too, so we can get hyped together. So let's start with January releases. Both of these have already come out when this video is up. I haven't read them yet, so I'm still excited to get to them. And the first one is Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. I'll put up a picture here. From what I understand, this, first of all, is a debut novel. It is YA contemporary, and it just sounds really, really cute. So this is the story of Tessa, who is our main character. She is 16 years old, and she loves to write, and to write love stories, stories that feature characters who look like her, who feel real to her. And what happens is that she's accepted into some writing program, some special writing program, and all of a sudden the words are gone. So cue the funny romantic comedy type of situation where she needs to find real life inspiration, a real life love story, so she can write again. And that just sounds like the most fluffy, adorable book. If this is being compared to All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is one of my favorite contemporary books, I'm 100% here for it. Next up, on a completely different note, we have The Death of Francis Bacon by Max Porter. I have read both of Max Porter's books up until this point. I really enjoy the way he brings stories to life, and I'm really intrigued about this because this is, even the book description is super mysterious. Francis Bacon is a painter, and supposedly with this book, Max Porter kind of brings his paintings to life a little bit. It seems very experimental, which I am curious about, and I already know I love Max Porter's writing style, so I'm really curious to see what he does with this. The fact that these come out at these specific times does not mean that I will be reading them in these months. I will try my hardest, but overall these are just books that I'm excited to read and to get to, hopefully this year, but I don't make any promises on that. Next up, we have February. And for February, we have a ton of books that just sound so great. First off, we have This Close to Okay by Lisa Cross Smith. I've never read anything by this author before, but apparently she is very well regarded. And this just sounds like a hard-hitting story, a hard-hitting contemporary. This is adult fiction. The tagline is a life-changing weekend shared between two strangers, a therapist and the man she prevents from ending his life. Obviously, trigger warnings for suicide and suicide attempt. So if you are interested in this book, research a little bit more. The next book I'm really excited to get to is Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado, and I got to this book because of the cover. I'm just being honest. I think I heard of it for the first time on Bookstagram, one of those carousel type of things where you see new releases coming out this year. And the cover really grabbed my eye, so I researched a little bit more, and it sounds once again like an incredibly beautiful story. From the description on Goodreads, it says it's a coming-of-age story of a fat brown girl in White, Connecticut. So obviously we'll deal with body positivity and body issues, the way we see ourselves, and in this case the way this character sees herself, everything that surrounds her, different pressures that she has in her life. This book tackles our relationships to our parents, our bodies, our cultures, and ourselves. As with all of these books, I am probably going to sound very repetitive here because all of these books I'm really excited to get to. All of them I can't wait to read. but that is the truth. Next up, we have Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson, and I really want to read this book because of the author. The cover looks stunning. Once again, I can't lie, it was one of the reasons why this grabbed my eye in the first place, but then the author. I have heard nothing but great things about Renee Watson's books, about her writing, and so why not start with her newest release? Once again, contemporary YA love story, but it then has much more to it. On Goodreads, it says, a love story about not only a romantic relationship, but how a girl finds herself and falls in love with who she really is. This sounds incredible. From what I know of this author, I know that she deals with a lot of activism, a lot of social topics and social discussion, so I am kind of expecting those themes to be woven in the story as well. We have The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, and this is the first fantasy that I'm bringing to the table, though it's not the last. I'm really excited for all the fantasy this year that is coming out. But this is the first one, and this just sounds incredible. This is a story of Decca, a 16-year-old who is at a time in her life where she's meant to perform a ceremony. It's one of those rites of passage that determines the rest of your life. And she is kind of an outsider, so she just wants things. We've seen this kind of feeling before. She just wants things to be as simple as possible. She doesn't want to be special, but then things take a turn for not that direction. And here, obviously, she will in some way have to save the world. From the reviews and little stuff I've read so far, this is ancient West African inspired, which sounds really, really fascinating. It's something that I don't know enough, if anything, about. I have read A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, also West African inspired. Really enjoyed that. I'm really, really excited to delve into this one. Next up, we have one of my most, if not the most anticipated book of the year for me, and that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Now, you don't know this about me yet, but A Court of Thorns and Roses is one of my favorite series of all time. A Court of Mist and Fury is one of my favorite books ever in life. I love it with all my heart. And knowing that we will get to see those characters in new adventures, that we will get to explore more of them, it fills my heart with so much joy. This follows Cassian and Nesta. Obviously, this will be the 5th book in the series, so there's no point in me explaining anything. If you're at all interested, there are fairies. This is fantasy, obviously, high fantasy, mainly romance. It's beautiful, I love it. And so, yes, I cannot wait to get my eyes on that page and start reading A Court of Silver Flames. The last book that I'm super excited to get to in February is Like Home by Louisa Onome, and from the description, this is one of those books that is recommended for fans of Elizabeth Acevedo, which I very much am. This is about a girl whose life is turned upside down after one local act of vandalism throws her relationships and even her neighborhood into turmoil. So I'm guessing that we will see this kind of neighborhood type of relationship, the way our main character interacts with her community, and it just sounds super, super interesting. Moving on to March, which has some of my favorite authors of all time with new releases, which makes me really, really happy. And first off, we have Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. Now, I still haven't read Chain of Gold, but I'm on it. I'm planning to read it soon, especially because that way I can read Chain of Iron immediately after Chain of Gold, so everything is fresh. And obviously I can't say anything. This is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. I already know I'm going to love this, so it's just a matter of actually reading the book. Then we have once again, one of my favorite authors that I've recently discovered one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have reread Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I have reread Take a Hint, Annie Brown recently as well. And I cannot wait to get my eyes and this book in my hands, because I just know this is romance. From what I've heard in terms of reviews so far, it's lovely. Yes, 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 I am so here for it. The last book of March that I'm really excited to get to is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. Obviously the last book of the duology after King of Scars. And once again, I can't say too much about it. I remember finishing King of Scars with a lot of questions. We have a lot of problems to solve. We have a lot to deal with. We have a lot to do in this book. Moving on to May. The first book is The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This is one of those books that is a little bit outside my comfort zone. This got on my radar because of the cover. It's one of the most stunning illustrations I've ever seen. I love it. And is that justification enough for me to pick this up? Probably not, but that's how I operate, so here we are. This is sci-fi, or better yet, this is described as We Were Liars with a sci-fi twist. I've never read We Were Liars. I know what it is about. Generally speaking, I know it's a little bit more of a mystery, which, as you know by now, it's not really my cup of tea, but still. Sometimes I do this and sometimes it pays off, where I read outside my comfort zone and I'm completely surprised by what happens. So I'm giving this book a chance. Like I said before, this is kind of a sci-fi situation. We have C, who awoke on an abandoned island 3 years ago. She has no idea how she got there, and she lives in a rickety house with an old android and a single memory that she has a sister. So I'm guessing we go from there. And the last book of May, Heartstopper, Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. Heartstopper is one of my favorite series. I love Nick and Charlie so much, and I cannot wait to continue their adventure, see their love story continue to grow. Then we have June, and the first book that comes out in June is An Emotion of Great Delight by Tahara Mafi. I have read her other book, what's it called? Her other contemporary, A Very Large Expanse of Sea. Loved it. This is her newest contemporary YA book. I need to read it, and I'm guessing that I'm going to love it because I just love the way she writes. From what I understand, this takes place in the wake of 9/11. We will have a Muslim main character. Tahara really makes a point to bring these characters to life, and I love seeing that perspective. This takes place in 2003. I know Tahara Mafi's writing. She will make this brutal story beautiful. Then we have another sequel. We have A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown, the sequel to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which I read last year, really enjoyed. If I'm not mistaken, this is meant to be a duology, so the story ends here. I will probably be rereading the first one just so I have things fresher in my mind. When I read the first book, things ended on a bit of an unexpected note, so I'm really excited to see where this story will end. Then we have another one that I think is very anticipated, and that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, the writer of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which blew up everywhere. I enjoyed it, though it's not a favorite romance of mine. I think maybe I will enjoy this book better. Do I know too much about it? No, but at the same time with romance, I do enjoy being taken by surprise. The last book on my list in June is The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nhi Vo. Please do ask away, why do you want to read this? Have you seen this beautiful cover? Do I need a better explanation for it? I hope not. This book, from what I've heard, is a queer The Great Gatsby retelling, which sounds amazing. I have read The Great Gatsby, I have watched the movie The Great Gatsby, and I do have to say that not even Leo DiCaprio could convince me of that. The way F. Scott Fitzgerald writes is really at arm's length for me. I never felt a connection to his characters, even though that is the point. That being said, this twist sounds more interesting, and especially because we see from a secondary character's perspective, or someone who is a secondary character in the original text, but here will be a main character. So that sounds so much more appealing to me, that we don't really see from Gatsby's perspective and Nick's perspective and Daisy, who are just so whatever to me. Really interested to read something by this author who I've heard nothing but great things about. Moving on to August, we have another romance that I have been anticipating for some time now, and that is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. I cannot wait. Helen Huang is one of my favorite romance authors, but specifically of romance. Once again, I don't know too much about it. I don't need to know too much about it. Helen Huang, new book. That's all I'll ever need to hear. And then we have Living Without Borders, Growing Up Mexican in America, edited by Margarita Longoria. This is a collection of short stories, essays, poems, and more in a YA anthology that explores the Mexican-American experience. It's one of those books that it has such an important message, an important view of the world to be aware of and understand, to educate ourselves, that I really cannot wait to get this book into my hands. Once again, this cover, perfection. Then we get to September, and there are obviously more books that will be announced down the year that I don't know yet their existence. There are certain other books that I am interested in, but I just didn't want this video to be 50 hours long. So here we are. You will see from my hauls and from my wrap-ups that obviously I will get more new releases, but these are like top of my TBR. And moving on to September, we have Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. You know my love of Jay Kristoff. I discovered him last year, or I read him last year. I knew of him before that, and this sounds amazing. This is high fantasy about a vampire from, I think he himself described it a bit like The Name of the Wind, but with vampires. So we see this old vampire kind of telling his story. I'm here for it. Absolutely here for it. Then, supposedly this is announced to come out in November. I hope it does, but at the same time, with the way the world is going, I wouldn't be surprised if this is pushed back. But fingers crossed, it will come out in November, and that is the second book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. We don't yet have a cover. We don't even have a title yet. It only says Crescent City 2. So yeah, I have nothing to show for it other than my excitement, which is way up high. I loved the first one, Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I love the characters. I cannot wait to see where Sarah J. Maas will go with the story. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is one that has no cover yet and no release date yet. So possibly, hopefully it'll come out this year. So that book is The Black Volume of the Dead by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This comes out after The Lost Book of the White. Once again, we continue with the Malik adventures, Magnus and Alec. Obviously, whatever we know this, whatever Cassandra Clare writes, I will read. I will always read. And so I'm really excited. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you to know some of the books to look out for this year. Please let me know in the comments what books are on your most anticipated list for 2021 so I can check them out, add them to my list. or if we have books in common so we can fangirl in the comments down below. That's it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!